40%. That's how much sugar absorption this one spice blocks in clinical trials. 40%. From your breakfast, from your lunch, from that piece of bread you had with dinner last night. And you can put it in your morning coffee. Not as a supplement, not as an extract, as the actual spice. The one that's been sitting in your kitchen cabinet, probably for years. And your endocrinologist has never, not once, told you to use it. That's going to change today. Quick note before we dive in. Even though I present peer-reviewed medical research in this video, I am not your personal physician. Please talk to your doctor before making any changes to your diet, especially if you're on diabetes medication. Every study I cite today is linked in the description below. Trackable. Verifiable. I don't make claims I can't back up with published evidence. The spice is cinnamon. Now wait. Hold on. Before you click away thinking, oh, I already know about cinnamon. You don't. Not this. Because what I'm about to show you isn't the Pinterest wellness nonsense about sprinkling cinnamon on your oatmeal and hoping for the best. That's not what the research says. What the research says, peer-reviewed, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2024, is that cinnamon physically inhibits the enzymes that break starch into sugar inside your gut. Alpha amylase, alpha glucosidase, the two enzymes responsible for converting every carbohydrate you eat into glucose. Cinnamon slows both of them down, simultaneously. And here's what nobody's talking about. When you combine cinnamon with coffee, the effect isn't just additive. Coffee contains chlorogenic acid, which independently inhibits those same enzymes. Two inhibitors hitting the same target from two different angles, in the same cup, before your first meal. I'm going to show you exactly how this works inside your body. The clinical trials. The dose that matters. The type of cinnamon that works versus the type that's dangerous. And the 4 mistakes that cancel the entire benefit. If you believe this kind of information should be free and available to every person managing their blood sugar and not locked behind a prescription pad, subscribe right now. Because the videos I make are specifically for people over 60 who are done being sold to and ready to see what the actual research says. Stay with me. This changes your morning. All right, let me explain what's actually happening inside your digestive system. Because once you see this, you'll never drink your morning coffee the same way again. When you eat any carbohydrate, bread, rice, potatoes, pasta, oatmeal, a banana, anything, your body has to break it down into glucose before it can absorb it. That breakdown happens through enzymes, specifically 2 enzymes. First, alpha amylase. This enzyme starts working in your mouth. It's actually in your saliva and continues in your small intestine. Its job is to chop long starch chains into shorter pieces. Maltose, maltotriose, smaller fragments. Then, alpha glucosidase. This enzyme sits on the lining of your small intestine, the brush border, scientists call it, and it finishes the job. It takes those smaller fragments and converts them into individual glucose molecules, single units, ready to cross the intestinal wall and flood into your bloodstream. That's the spike. That's the moment your blood sugar jumps after a meal. When those individual glucose molecules hit your blood all at once. Fast. Now here's where cinnamon comes in. And this is the part that changed my understanding of this spice entirely. Cinnamon contains polyphenolic compounds, proanthocyanidins specifically, that physically bind to the active sites of both alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase. They don't destroy the enzymes. They don't shut them off permanently. They sit in the way, like putting a piece of tape over a keyhole. The key still exists, the lock still works, but the tape makes it harder to get the key in. Slower, less efficient. And when those enzymes work slower, starch breaks down slower. Glucose is released slower. And instead of a flood of sugar hitting your bloodstream in 20 minutes after a meal, it trickles in over 60, 90, even 120 minutes. Same total amount of carbohydrate, same meal, but the speed is completely different. And I need you to understand why speed matters. because this is the part most doctors skip. A slow, gradual rise in blood sugar. Your body can handle that. Your pancreas releases insulin proportionally. Your muscles absorb the glucose steadily. Everything works the way it's supposed to. But a fast spike? A surge? Your pancreas panics, dumps a massive bolus of insulin. Your cells get overwhelmed. Some of the glucose gets stored as fat. And then, your blood sugar crashes. Below baseline. You feel tired, foggy, hungry again. That spike and crash cycle, that's what damages blood vessels over time. That's what wears out your pancreas. That's what drives insulin resistance year after year after year. Not the carbs themselves, the speed. Cinnamon changes the speed. Physics, not pharmaceuticals. And here's the thing that should make you angry. Acarbose, the prescription drug that doctors give specifically for post-meal spikes, works through the exact same mechanism. Alpha-glucosidase inhibition. Same enzyme, same approach. Except acarbose costs you a copay every month, commonly causes bloating, gas, and abdominal cramping, and requires a prescription. Cinnamon does it without the prescription, without the side effects, without the pharmacy. I'm not saying don't take acarbose if your doctor prescribed it. That's not my call. But I am saying the mechanism is the same. And a 2011 study published in Plant Foods for Human Nutrition found that cinnamon bark extracts produced additive inhibition when combined with acarbose. Additive, meaning they enhance each other. They don't compete, they stack. So if you're already on acarbose, cinnamon may amplify what it does. And if you're not on acarbose, cinnamon gives you the same mechanism through food. Talk to your doctor, but know the science. Alright, so that's mechanism 1, enzyme inhibition. And if this video stopped here, cinnamon would already be worth adding to your diet. But it doesn't stop here, because when you add coffee to the equation, something remarkable happens. Now here's where this gets really interesting, and honestly, this is the part that made me decide to make this video. Coffee, plain black coffee, independently inhibits those same two enzymes, alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase, through a completely different compound, chlorogenic acid, CGA. Chlorogenic acid is one of the most abundant polyphenols in coffee. When you brew a cup of coffee, you're extracting hundreds of milligrams of this compound. And it does essentially the same thing as cinnamon's proanthocyanidins. It binds to the digestive enzymes and slows them down. But through a different binding mechanism, a different angle of inhibition. Now think about what happens when you put cinnamon in your coffee. You're not just doubling the same mechanism. You're stacking two different inhibitors that attack the same enzymes from two different directions simultaneously. Cinnamon's proanthocyanidins bind to one site on alpha amylase. Coffee's chlorogenic acid binds to another. Both are slowing down the same enzyme, but through complementary pathways. In pharmacology, this is called synergistic inhibition. And a 2024 study out of an Oxford University Press journal investigated exactly this. What happens when you combine tea and coffee polyphenols as enzyme inhibitors? And they found that the combination produced effects that were greater than either one alone. Not additive, synergistic. 1 + 1 equaling more than 2. Let me put this in terms that make sense. Imagine alpha amylase is a factory worker on an assembly line. His job is to chop starch into sugar. Fast, efficiently, all day long. Now imagine you put gloves on his hands, thick rubber gloves. He can still work, but slower, clumsier. That's cinnamon. Now imagine you also put earplugs in his ears so he can't hear the instructions from the line supervisor telling him when to speed up. He's wearing gloves and he can't hear. That's the coffee. Neither one shuts him down completely. But both together, the factory grinds to a crawl. Sugar production drops. The post-meal spike flattens. And your pancreas, finally, gets a break. That's what's happening in your gut when you drink cinnamon coffee before a meal. Two different compounds. Two different inhibition mechanisms. 1 cup. And you're already drinking the coffee. Every morning. Most of you. Probably right now while you're watching this. All you have to do is add the cinnamon. But, and this is where I need to slow down because this matters a lot, Not just any cinnamon, and not just any amount, and not in just any way. Get any of those three wrong, and you either waste the benefit or, in some cases, actively hurt yourself. Let me show you the clinical evidence first, then I'll tell you exactly what to do and what to avoid. A 2024 randomized controlled double-blind crossover trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, which is one of the most respected nutrition journals in the world, took 18 participants with obesity and pre-diabetes and gave them 4 grams of cinnamon daily for 4 weeks. They monitored blood sugar continuously. 24-hour continuous glucose monitoring. Not just a finger prick, not just a fasting test, round the clock. The result? Cinnamon lowered glucose concentrations during continuous monitoring compared to placebo. Statistically significant. And 4 grams, that's roughly 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon per day. That's it. But here's the detail that matters. This study also found that cinnamon increased postprandial GIP, glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide. That's an incretin hormone. Same family as GLP-1. Same pathway that Ozempic targets. The cinnamon stimulated incretin hormone release through the gut, from a spice. Now, let me go deeper, because that's not the only evidence. A 2007 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Lebowitz and colleagues, tested 6 grams of cinnamon consumed with rice pudding in healthy subjects. They measured postprandial blood sugar and gastric emptying. The cinnamon group had significantly lower blood sugar after the meal. And the mechanism? Delayed gastric emptying. The cinnamon literally slowed how fast food left the stomach and entered the small intestine. Slower entry means slower sugar release. Slower sugar release means lower spike. So, cinnamon is hitting you with a triple mechanism. It inhibits the enzymes that break starch into sugar. It delays how fast food moves from stomach to intestine. And it stimulates incretin hormones that improve insulin response. 3 mechanisms. From a spice. In your coffee. A 2024 meta-analysis, Moradpour and colleagues, published in Phytotherapy Research, pooled data from multiple randomized controlled trials on cinnamon and type 2 diabetes. They confirmed that cinnamon supplementation significantly reduced fasting plasma glucose and improved glycemic control. Dose-dependent. The more cinnamon consumed within safe ranges, the greater the effect. And a 2023 umbrella meta-analysis, Zarezadeh and colleagues in Diabetology and Metabolic Syndrome, went even bigger. They pooled data from previous meta-analyses. A meta-analysis of meta-analyses. The highest level of evidence you can get in clinical research short of a Cochrane review. And across all the pooled data from hundreds of patients across dozens of trials, cinnamon significantly reduced fasting plasma glucose, HbA1c, and insulin resistance as measured by HOMA-IR. Let me say that again. Fasting glucose, A1c, and insulin resistance. All 3 markers improved. From a spice. I want to be balanced here because that's important. Not every individual trial showed dramatic results. Some showed modest effects, some showed more. The effect size varies depending on the dose, the duration, the type of cinnamon, and whether the participants had diabetes, pre-diabetes, or were healthy. That's science. It's messy. It's not a magic bullet. But the direction of the evidence is clear, and it's consistent, and it keeps being confirmed by newer, better-designed trials every year. And then in October 2024, a study out of Brazil, published in PLOS One, ran a beautiful crossover trial in actual type 2 diabetic patients. They tested raw cinnamon powder dissolved in water before a meal versus cinnamon in capsule form. And here's the finding that should change how you use cinnamon forever. The powder dissolved in liquid suppressed post-meal blood sugar significantly. The capsules? Weaker effect. Much weaker. The form matters. Capsules trap the cinnamon inside gelatin. Your digestive enzymes have to break down the capsule first before the cinnamon can even begin to interact with your gut enzymes. By the time it's released, the meal is already being digested. The window is missed. But when cinnamon is dissolved in liquid, like coffee, it's already active, already in contact with your digestive system, already binding to those enzymes before the first bite of food even arrives. That's why coffee is the perfect delivery system. The hot liquid dissolves the cinnamon compounds. The chlorogenic acid in the coffee adds its own inhibitory effect. And you drink it before your meal. Timing, form, synergy. All three aligned. Now everything I've covered so far is what happens during the day. How food breaks down, how enzymes work, how cinnamon and coffee change the speed of sugar absorption. But there's a whole other side to this. What happens between midnight and 6 a.m. when your liver takes over? I actually wrote a full guide about that called The Midnight Insulin Trap. Links in the description below. But let me keep going because the next part, the type of cinnamon, this is where people get seriously hurt. Stop right here. This is critical. And I mean genuinely critical. There are two main types of cinnamon sold in grocery stores in America. They look identical on the shelf. Same color, same powder, same label that just says cinnamon. But they are not the same thing, not even close, and one of them can damage your liver. The first type is cassia cinnamon. Cinnamomum cassia. This is what 90% of American grocery stores sell. It's cheaper, stronger flavor, comes primarily from China and Indonesia, and it contains high levels of a compound called coumarin. Coumarin in small doses, the amount you'd get from a dash on your oatmeal once in a while, is fine. Your liver handles it. But if you're consuming cinnamon daily for blood sugar management, which is what the research supports, coumarin accumulates, and chronic coumarin exposure damages hepatocytes, liver cells. The European Food Safety Authority set a tolerable daily intake of 0.1 milligrams of coumarin per kilogram of body weight. For a 150-pound person, that's about 6.8 milligrams per day. A single teaspoon of cassia cinnamon can contain 7 to 18 milligrams of coumarin. 1 teaspoon exceeds the safe limit. The second type is Ceylon cinnamon, Cinnamomum verum, true cinnamon. It comes primarily from Sri Lanka. It's lighter in color, more delicate flavor, more expensive, usually 2 to 3 times the price. But its coumarin content? Negligible, close to zero. A 2025 study published in Phytomedicine specifically tested Ceylon cinnamon extract for its alpha-amylase and alpha-glucosidase inhibition. The result? Significant inhibitory activity. The blood sugar benefits are there, without the liver risk. So let me be extremely clear. If you're going to put cinnamon in your coffee every day, which is what the research supports, it must be Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia, not the cheap stuff from the baking aisle that just says cinnamon on the label. Ceylon, Cinnamomum verum. Look for it at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, or any health food store. It'll say Ceylon on the label. If the label doesn't specify, it's almost certainly cassia. Don't use it daily. This is non-negotiable. The blood sugar benefit is real. But the liver risk from cassia is also real. Ceylon gives you one without the other. And let me tell you how to spot the difference because this trips people up. Ceylon cinnamon sticks, if you ever buy them whole, are thin, papery, and roll in multiple layers. Like a cigar made of tissue paper. Cassia sticks are thick, hard, single-layer rolls. In powder form, you can't tell by looking. You have to read the label. If it says Ceylon, true cinnamon, or Cinnamomum verum, you're safe. If it just says cinnamon with no specification, it's cassia. That's the default in America, the cheap kind, the one with coumarin. Put it back on the shelf. This distinction could be the difference between helping your blood sugar and hurting your liver. I don't say that lightly. And that liver piece? That's something I don't think gets talked about enough. Because your liver is already under stress after 60. It's processing every medication you take. It's dumping glucose at 2 a.m. It's handling the metabolic load from decades of accumulated wear. And that overnight liver glucose dump, the thing that makes your morning fasting number stubbornly high even when you ate perfectly, That's the exact problem I wrote The Midnight Insulin Trap to solve. It covers the nighttime system, the food timing, the 7-day reset. Links below. But let me get to the mistakes now, because this is where most people fail. 4 mistakes that cancel the benefit. Miss any one of these and you're wasting your time. Mistake 1. Adding sugar to the coffee. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to. Because I've seen comments from people who add cinnamon to their coffee and then dump 2 tablespoons of sugar in. Or flavored creamer that contains 20 grams of sugar per serving. You're blocking 40% of sugar absorption from your meal, while simultaneously pouring sugar directly into the same cup. The cinnamon inhibits the enzymes that break starch into sugar. It doesn't block the absorption of sugar that's already in liquid form. Free glucose, dissolved sucrose. Those absorb directly, no enzyme needed. The cinnamon can't touch them. Black coffee, or coffee with unsweetened almond milk, or a splash of heavy cream, which has almost no sugar. That's it. No sugar, no syrup, no flavored creamer. Read the label. Mistake 2. Using cassia cinnamon daily. I covered this, but it bears repeating because your liver is not a joke. If you use the cheap cinnamon from the baking aisle every single day for weeks and months, you're accumulating coumarin. It's hepatotoxic. The blood sugar benefit isn't worth liver damage. Ceylon cinnamon only. Period. Non-negotiable. Mistake 3. Drinking the coffee after the meal instead of before. The timing matters enormously, and I mean, this changes everything. The 2024 PLOS-ONE trial proved that cinnamon dissolved in liquid before a meal suppresses the post-meal glucose spike. Before. The cinnamon compounds need to be present in your gut before the food arrives. They need time to bind to the enzymes, to set up the blockade. If you drink your cinnamon coffee during the meal or after it, you're late. The enzymes have already been working for 20 minutes. The starch is already being converted. The glucose is already flooding in. 15 to 20 minutes before your first meal. That's the window. Drink it, let it reach your gut, let the compounds bind, then eat. That sequence matters. Mistake 4. Expecting it to replace medication. Cinnamon is not metformin. It's not insulin. It's not a pharmaceutical. It's a food-based enzyme inhibitor that meaningfully reduces post-meal glucose spikes through a physical mechanism. But it does not replace your medication. It complements it. If you're on metformin, which works primarily by reducing liver glucose production, cinnamon is addressing a completely different stage. Metformin targets the liver. Cinnamon targets the gut enzymes. They work on different parts of the problem. They're not competing. They can work together. But one does not replace the other. Please, talk to your doctor before making any changes to your medication. And look, I know some people watching this are frustrated with their medications. I know that. I hear it in the comments every single day. People who feel like they're on a prescription treadmill that never stops. And I get that frustration. I really do. But the answer isn't to throw away your pills and replace them with cinnamon. The answer is to add tools like this, evidence-based, food-based tools that work alongside what your doctor has you on, so that over time, maybe, your numbers improve enough that your doctor considers reducing a dose. That's the path. That's the responsible way to do this. Don't be reckless with your health to make a point. Stop for a second. Let me recap what you just learned, because this matters. Cinnamon inhibits alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase, the 2 enzymes that turn starch into sugar. Coffee's chlorogenic acid hits those same enzymes from a different angle. Together, they create synergistic inhibition. The 2024 AJCN trial proved it works on continuous glucose monitoring. The PLOS-ONE trial proved powder in liquid beats capsules. And Ceylon cinnamon gives you all of this without the liver-toxic coumarin that cassia carries. 5 mechanisms, 2 compounds, 1 cup, before breakfast. Now here's exactly what to do. 4 steps. Start tomorrow morning. Step 1. Buy Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia. The label must say Ceylon, or Cinnamomum verum, or true cinnamon. Trader Joe's carries it, Whole Foods carries it, Amazon has it. It'll cost you $8 to $12 for a jar that lasts 2 to 3 months of daily use. That's about 12 cents a day. Step 2. Add half a teaspoon to your morning coffee. Stir it in while the coffee is hot. The heat helps dissolve the compounds. Let it sit for 2 minutes before drinking. Don't add sugar, don't add flavored creamer. Black coffee, unsweetened almond milk, or a splash of heavy cream. Step 3. Drink it 15 to 20 minutes before your first meal of the day. This is the timing window. The cinnamon compounds need to reach your gut and bind to those enzymes before the food arrives. Before, not during, not after. Step 4. After 2 weeks, if you're tolerating it well, no stomach discomfort, no heartburn, increase to 1 full teaspoon. That puts you in the range of the clinical trials. 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in your morning coffee, every day, before breakfast. And track it. If you check your own blood sugar, do a simple test. One morning, eat your normal breakfast without the cinnamon coffee. Check your blood sugar at 1 hour and 2 hours after eating. Write those numbers down. The next morning, drink the cinnamon coffee 20 minutes before the same breakfast. Check at 1 hour and 2 hours. Compare. You are the study. N equals 1. Your body, your data. And I'd bet my reputation you'll see the difference. 1 spice, 1 cup, 12 cents. 3 mechanisms working simultaneously against your post-meal blood sugar spike. Without a new prescription, without a supplement, without changing what you eat. Just changing what's in your coffee when you eat it. Now. One more thing. If this video showed you how to protect your blood sugar during the day, how to block sugar absorption with your morning coffee, then the question you need to ask yourself is, what happens tonight? Because your morning coffee wears off. The cinnamon's enzyme inhibition fades after a few hours. And by midnight, your liver takes over. It starts dumping glucose into your bloodstream. Cortisol rises between 2 and 4 a.m., and everything you protected during the day starts unraveling while you sleep. That's exactly why I wrote The Midnight Insulin Trap. It walks you through what changes in your body after 60, why your fasting number stays stubbornly high no matter how well you eat, and a 7-day nighttime reset protocol. Meal timing, what to eat and when. The evening window that most people miss entirely. The link is below this video. It will answer the questions your doctor genuinely doesn't have time to explain. What surprised you most? The enzyme inhibition? The cassia liver risk? The coffee synergy? The fact that this costs 12 cents a day? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And honestly, your comments are how I decide what to research next. The topics that get the most engagement are the ones I dive deeper into. So tell me